Chapter 1, The Breaking Point. I stared at my laptop screen at 2:47 a.m., the cursor blinking mockingly in the empty document that was supposed to contain my breakthrough business plan. My eyes burned from the blue light, but the pain in my chest burned worse, the suffocating weight of another failed attempt at creating the million-dollar idea that would finally prove I wasn't a failure. 6 months. That's how long I'd given myself to build a six-figure online business. 6 months to go from struggling freelance writer to entrepreneurial success story. The timeline had seemed so reasonable when I'd quit my stable marketing job, inspired by countless YouTube videos of 20-somethings flashing their Lamborghinis and talking about crushing it in their first year. Now, with rent due in 3 days and $247 in my checking account, that timeline felt like a noose around my neck. My phone buzzed with another notification from Instagram, another entrepreneur my age posting about their 7-figure launch with a picture of champagne and a laptop on a beach. I felt that familiar stab of jealousy mixed with self-doubt. What was wrong with me? Why was everyone else making it look so easy while I couldn't even get my first product off the ground? I grabbed my journal, the one I'd bought specifically to track my journey to success, and flipped through pages of abandoned ideas, half-finished projects, and increasingly desperate timeline adjustments. Month 1, launch course, failed. Month 2, start dropshipping business, failed. Month 3, create viral content, failed. Month 4, find business partner, failed. Month 5, pivot to coaching, failed. Each failure felt like evidence of some fundamental flaw in my character. I'd read every success book, watched every motivational video, attended every free webinar promising to reveal the secret to instant wealth. Yet here I was, further from my goal than when I'd started. The worst part wasn't the financial stress, it was the growing certainty that I simply wasn't cut out for success. Everyone else seemed to have some secret formula I couldn't crack, some inherent talent I lacked. The comparison trap had become a prison, and I was serving a life sentence. My best friend Maya had warned me about this. Sophie, she'd said over coffee 6 months ago, what if it takes longer than you think? What if you're putting too much pressure on the timeline? I'd brushed off her concern with the confidence of someone who'd watched too many rags to riches documentaries. Maya, if you're not uncomfortable, you're not growing fast enough. I'm going to make this happen. Now her words echoed in my empty apartment as I closed the laptop and buried my face in my hands. The uncomfortable truth was settling in. I had no idea what I was doing, and worse, I had no idea how to figure it out. Chapter 2, The Descent. The next few weeks spiraled into a blur of increasingly frantic attempts to salvage my timeline. I threw myself into every new opportunity that promised quick results, jumping from one proven system to another like a drowning person grasping at life rafts. I spent my last $500 on a course promising to teach me how to make $10,000 in 30 days with Amazon FBA. When that didn't work immediately, I pivoted to affiliate marketing, then to cryptocurrency trading, then to creating a personal brand around my entrepreneurial journey, a journey that was rapidly becoming a cautionary tale. Each failure compounded the last. I'd check my bank account obsessively, refresh my website analytics hoping for a miracle, and scroll through social media comparing my behind-the-scenes struggles to everyone else's highlight reels. The constant measurement of results that weren't coming was driving me insane. Just give it more time, I told myself, but time felt like my enemy. Every day that passed without hitting my financial goals felt like proof that I was deluding myself about my potential. I started waking up with anxiety attacks, my chest tight with the weight of impending failure. Sleep became elusive as my mind raced through endless scenarios of what I could have done differently, what I should try next, whether I should just give up and beg for my old job back. The breaking point came during a particularly brutal Tuesday afternoon. I'd just received another rejection email, this time from a potential client who'd decided to go with someone more established. I slammed my laptop shut and screamed into a pillow until my throat was raw. Maya found me crying on my kitchen floor when she came by to check on me. I'm a fraud, I sobbed into her shoulder. I thought I could do this, but I can't. Everyone else makes it look so easy, and I can't even get one thing to work. She sat with me on the cold tile floor, letting me cry out months of accumulated frustration and shame. "Sophie, can I ask you something?" she said gently. "In all these months, how much time have you spent actually working on one thing consistently versus how much time you've spent checking if it's working?" The question hit me like a slap. I realized I'd been spending more time measuring progress than making it, refreshing analytics, calculating potential earnings, adjusting timelines, and comparing myself to others instead of actually building anything meaningful. "Maybe," Maya continued carefully, "the problem isn't that you're not good enough. Maybe the problem is that you're so focused on getting results that you're not giving yourself a chance to develop the skills that create results." Her words planted a seed of doubt, not about my abilities, but about my approach. That night, I found myself Googling "why am I not successful" and stumbled across an article about something called outcome addiction, the psychological trap of being so focused on results that you sabotage the very process that creates them. For the first time in months, I felt a spark of hope. Maybe I wasn't broken. Maybe I was just approaching this all wrong. Chapter 3, The Encounter. The article led me down a rabbit hole of research about goal psychology and success mindsets. That's how I discovered Dr. Ryder Chen, a renowned psychologist from UCLA who specialized in achievement and performance psychology. He'd written extensively about what he called the success paradox, how chasing results directly often prevents you from achieving them. Desperate for answers, I reached out to him through his website, expecting either no response or a form letter directing me to his expensive courses. Instead, I received a personal email 2 days later. "Sophie, your message resonated with me because I see this pattern constantly in my practice. You're experiencing what Harvard Business School research has identified as outcome fixation syndrome. I'm giving a small workshop next week in Los Angeles about process-focused achievement. If you can make it, I think it might help." I drove 3 hours to LA with my last $50 in gas money, feeling like I was grasping at straws but unable to ignore the possibility that this might be different. The workshop was held in a small conference room at UCLA, with maybe 20 people, a mix of entrepreneurs, athletes, and creative professionals who all looked as desperately hopeful as I felt. Dr. Chen was not what I expected. Instead of the slick motivational speaker I'd imagined, he was a soft-spoken man in his 50s with kind eyes and the demeanor of someone who'd seen every variation of human struggle and still believed in people's potential to change. "How many of you," he began, "have ever had the experience of working incredibly hard toward a goal, only to feel like you're moving further away from it the harder you try?" Every hand in the room went up, including mine. "This is what Harvard researchers call the paradox of pursuit," Dr. Chen continued. A landmark study following 2,000 entrepreneurs over 5 years found that those who focused primarily on outcomes, revenue targets, growth metrics, timeline goals, were 300% less likely to achieve sustainable success than those who focused on what they called process mastery. He clicked to his next slide, showing 2 brain scans. When we're outcome-focused, our brains are constantly in a state of threat detection, scanning for evidence that we're failing. This triggers stress responses that actually impair the creative and strategic thinking necessary for success. I felt like he was describing my exact experience, the constant anxiety, the inability to focus, the way every small setback felt like a catastrophe. The process-focused group in the Harvard study did something different, Dr. Chen explained. Instead of asking, "Am I successful yet?" they asked, "Am I getting better at the skills that create success?" Instead of setting timeline goals, they set practice goals. Instead of measuring outcomes, they measured inputs. A woman raised her hand. "But how do you know if you're on the right track if you're not measuring results?" Dr. Chen smiled. "That's the beautiful paradox. When you stop obsessing over results and start perfecting your process, results begin to appear as a natural byproduct. It's like trying to fall asleep. The harder you try, the more elusive it becomes. But when you focus on creating the conditions for sleep, it happens naturally." He shared case studies that made my jaw drop. A software entrepreneur in Toronto who'd failed for 3 years while chasing quick wins, then built a $1 million company once he focused purely on improving his coding skills daily. a fitness coach in Sydney who struggled until she stopped measuring her follower count and started measuring how many people she genuinely helped each day. The research is clear, Dr. Chen said. Process-focused individuals are not just more likely to succeed, they're more likely to sustain that success and find fulfillment in the journey. During the break, I approached him with shaking hands and a voice that barely worked. Dr. Chen, everything you've said describes exactly what I've been going through. I've been so focused on becoming successful that I think I've forgotten how to actually do the work. How do I change this? He looked at me with those kind eyes and said something that would change my life. Sophie, what if I told you that your failures weren't evidence that you're not cut out for success, but evidence that you've been approaching it backwards? What if your obsession with results has been the only thing standing between you and the results you want? Chapter 4, The Ascent. Dr. Chen gave me a simple challenge. For the next 90 days, I want you to run an experiment. Focus entirely on process goals and ban yourself from checking any result metrics. Can you do that? The idea terrified me. How would I know if I was making progress? How would I stay motivated without seeing results? That's exactly the point, he said. You're going to discover that progress feels different when you're not constantly measuring it, and motivation comes from mastery, not metrics. He helped me design what he called a process-focused action plan. Instead of make $10,000 this month, my goal became write and publish one high-quality article every week. Instead of get 10,000 followers, it became engage authentically with 10 people in my target audience daily. Instead of launch a course, it became study one successful course creator's methods each week and implement one lesson. The first week was agony. Every instinct screamed at me to check my website traffic, count my social media likes, calculate potential earnings. I had to physically remove analytics apps from my phone and ask Maya to change my passwords. But something interesting started happening. Without the constant pressure of measuring results, I found myself actually enjoying the work. Writing became a creative outlet instead of a desperate bid for viral content. Engaging with my audience became genuine connection instead of follower hunting. Dr. Chen checked in weekly via video call, helping me navigate the psychological resistance to this new approach. How do you feel when you sit down to write now? He asked during our third session. Better, I admitted. Less anxious. But I feel like I'm flying blind. What if I'm wasting time on the wrong things? Sophie, that anxiety you used to feel, that was your brain in constant threat detection mode. Now that you're focused on the process, your prefrontal cortex can actually do its job of creative problem solving. Trust the process. He was right. By week 6, I noticed my writing was getting stronger, my ideas clearer. I was learning faster because I wasn't constantly second-guessing myself based on external metrics. When I engaged with my audience, the conversations were more meaningful because I wasn't trying to convert every interaction into a business outcome. The real test came in month 2 when I faced a major setback. A freelance client canceled a big project, leaving me short on rent money again. The old me would have seen this as evidence that my new approach wasn't working and would have pivoted to some desperate money-making scheme. Instead, I called Dr. Chen. This is exactly what the research predicted, he said calmly. Setbacks feel different when you're process-focused because they don't threaten your identity. They're just information about what to adjust in your system. He was right. Instead of spiraling into self-doubt, I used the setback as motivation to improve my client retention systems. I studied how other successful freelancers handled contracts, learned about better communication practices, and implemented new processes to prevent similar situations. By month 3, something remarkable was happening. I wasn't checking metrics, but people started commenting on the quality of my content. My writing was getting shared more organically. Potential clients were reaching out based on referrals rather than desperate outreach on my part. The most surprising part was how I felt. Instead of the constant anxiety and comparison that had plagued me for months, I felt calm and confident. I was getting better at skills that mattered, and that improvement was intrinsically motivating. Chapter 5, The Integration. The 90-day experiment ended on a Tuesday in November, but I almost forgot to check my results. I'd become so absorbed in the daily practice of improvement that measuring outcomes felt secondary. When Dr. Chen reminded me during our final session, I pulled up my analytics with curiosity rather than desperation. The numbers took my breath away. My website traffic had tripled. My email list had grown by 400%. I had 3 new clients paying premium rates, and 2 companies had reached out about potential partnerships. Most shocking of all, I'd earned more in the past month than in my previous best month ever, and I'd done it while focusing less on money than I ever had before. How is this possible? I asked Dr. Chen, staring at my screen in disbelief. He smiled that knowing smile I'd come to associate with breakthrough moments. Sophie, what you've just experienced is what we call the compound effect of process focus. When you stop interrupting your progress to measure it, when you stop switching strategies based on short-term results, when you focus purely on getting better at what matters, results become inevitable. He pulled up the original Harvard study on his screen. Look at these longitudinal results. Process-focused entrepreneurs don't just succeed more often, they succeed more sustainably. Their businesses grow more steadily, their stress levels remain manageable, and they maintain motivation even during difficult periods. I thought about the past 3 months. Even on days when external circumstances were challenging, I'd felt a deep sense of satisfaction from knowing I was improving. The work itself had become rewarding, not just the results it produced. But here's the most important part, Dr. Chen continued. You now have a proven system for achievement that you can apply to any goal. You've learned that success isn't about finding the right strategy or having natural talent, it's about focusing on process over outcome, inputs over outputs, systems over goals. 6 months later, my business had grown beyond what I'd originally thought possible. I was making consistent 6-figure income, but more importantly, I loved the work I was doing. I'd stopped comparing myself to others because I was too busy focusing on my own improvement. I started sharing my story, and the response was overwhelming. Dozens of struggling entrepreneurs reached out, describing the exact same outcome obsession that had nearly destroyed my confidence. I began mentoring others using Dr. Chen's process-focused approach, and started documenting case studies of transformation. Maria, a graphic designer from Toronto, had been jumping between business models for 2 years. After switching to process focus, she built a 6-figure design agency by focusing purely on improving her skills and serving clients better each day. James, a fitness coach from Melbourne, had been obsessed with follower counts and viral content. When he shifted to focusing on how many people he genuinely helped each week, his business tripled and his stress levels plummeted. The pattern was consistent. When people stopped chasing results and started perfecting their process, results followed naturally. 1 year after that first desperate night staring at my empty laptop screen, I received an email that brought tears to my eyes. It was from Dr. Chen. Sophie, I wanted you to know that your story has become one of my favorite case studies. Not because of your financial success, but because you've demonstrated something profound, that our relationship with achievement can be transformed. You've proven that when we align our daily actions with our deepest values and focus on process over outcome, we don't just achieve our goals, we transcend them. He was right. I'd originally wanted to make money to prove I wasn't a failure. What I'd discovered was something much more valuable, a sustainable approach to achievement that brought fulfillment regardless of external results. I still set goals, but they're different now. Instead of make $1 million, my goal is help 10,000 entrepreneurs discover process-focused achievement. Instead of become famous, it's create content that genuinely serves my audience every day. The beautiful paradox is that by releasing my attachment to specific outcomes, I've achieved outcomes beyond what I originally imagined. More importantly, I've learned that true success isn't about reaching a destination, it's about falling in love with the journey of becoming the person capable of reaching any destination. The Harvard study that once felt like it was destroying everything I believed about success actually rebuilt my relationship with achievement on a foundation that couldn't be shaken by external circumstances. I learned that you can plan your moves, but you can't plan your victories, and that's exactly what makes the process so powerful. Today, when young entrepreneurs ask me for the secret to success, I tell them what Dr. Chen told me: focus on the process, and the results will take care of themselves. Plan your moves, not your victories. And remember, every expert was once a beginner who refused to give up on getting better. The most profound transformation wasn't in my bank account or my business metrics. It was in my relationship with uncertainty, with setbacks, with the daily practice of improvement. I'd learned to find peace in the process and power in the present moment. And that, I realized, was the greatest victory of all, one that no external circumstance could ever take away.